This story starts with our male lead and female lead standing on wedding aisle. The priest said to them, I ask you as a humble servant of the Holy Father, the divine regent of God, do you, Maximilian Croiso, take this man, Riftan Calypse, as your lawfully wedded husband, and swear before God that you will obey him for the rest of your life? Maximilian tells her story. When I was a child, I once had a dream. A foolish dream that one day, a knight would come to rescue me. She said, I do. After 3 years, while biting her nails, Maximilian said, what should I do? He is CC coming. She stutters while speaking. Maid said, I heard the royal family is planning his betrothal to the princess. Perhaps he's coming here to divorce you. While looking worried, she asked, do you really think he is coming to divorce me? It's not my fault. I haven't heard from him in 3 years. Someone bangs open the door. He came into the room with his cane. He's Maximilian's father. The maid bowed her head to him. He looks angry. After hitting his cane on the ground aggressively, he said, Have I not warned you countless times about that filthy affliction of yours? TSK. You useless thing. Riftan Calypse is no longer a petty lower-class knight. While imagining the Red Dragon, he said, he is the hero sword master who defeated the Red Dragon, Sector. He said the church is willing to grant him a divorce if he wishes. And all this talk about a betrothal to the princess. What kind of man would ever want a stuttering wife? Why were you not able to captivate him on your wedding night? Such things would not be an issue if you were even half as beautiful as Rosetta. And if you were at least normal. Then I would not have had to crawl at his feet. While fearing her father, Maximilian said, I didn't ask for this. He left for the sea campaign a day after the wedding. After hearing that, her father clenches his teeth in anger and hit her on her shoulder with his cane. Maximilian fell on the floor and breathes heavily. He said, Don't you dare talk back to me. The mere thought of that loathsome impediment of yours makes me furious. The eldest Croiso daughter facing divorce from a lowly knight? I will not allow a stupid little thing like you to drag our family name through the gutter. He raises his cane again to hit her, and said it would be better if you were. After hearing the knock on the door, he stopped. The guard said, My lord! The knights have arrived! After lowering his cane, he said, Even if King Reuben wishes to take him as his son-in-law, it will not happen if Calypse refuses. While leaving, he glances at Maximilian and said, Expect to face consequences if you fail to stop the divorce. The priest heals Maximilian with his blessing. After exiting the room, her father said, I cannot leave this matter in the hands of that fool. I want to meet him first. Lead them to my drawing room. After her father left, Maximilian gets up and stands near the window. She thinks in her mind, What's going to happen to me now? There is no way a hopeless thing like me could possibly change his mind. What if? She looks at her reflection in the window and thinks, as father said, I had been even half as beautiful as Rose. Would Riftan still have left the way he did? 3 years ago. The wedding day. People are gathered on their wedding day. Someone said, Congratulations, Your Grace. Although I'm not sure if that is the right sentiment, since this is your much-cherished eldest daughter. Her father said, It is not my wish, but what can be done? It's for the greater good. As a father, arranging such a rushed wedding breaks my heart. The other person said, A lowly pagan marrying a duke's daughter. His greed knows no bounds. I feel bad for his daughter as well. The duke doted on her because she was ill so often. But this union frees us from our obligations to the dragon campaign. It's worked out well for everyone. Maximilian was hearing all of this while looking sad. She thinks in her mind, The one to be blamed for this marriage is not the pagan Riftan Calypse. When King Reuben summoned the nobles for the dragon-slaying expedition, father passed his duty on to Riftan Calypse in exchange for the useless Maximilian Croiso. During all of this, Maximilian heard a voice saying, This is preposterous. It was Riftan and another knight arguing. She tells in her mind, but I know the truth. Riftan refused his offer, so father cornered him and forced him to concede. But, sir, the royal decree. The maid said to Maximilian, my lady, it is time to go to the bridal chamber. She thinks in her mind, but does the young knight have any idea what he has taken on? At night Maximilian and a maid were walking in the hallway. She saw her father walking towards them, and the maid nodded and said, Your Grace. Her father said, You useless thing. That long face of yours is the reason people are gossiping. This is your chance to prove your worth. If you mess this up, you won't get away with a light punishment. Maximilian thinks in her mind, the useless Maximilian. No one will ever love me. While brushing her hair, maid said, You must stay as still as a corpse. That is the virtue of a lady. Maximilian asked. He was so big. What should I do if he strikes me? The maid said, If that is your husband's will, there is nothing you can do. She said, but I am scared. Maid said, His Grace will be furious if you ruin this marriage. She thinks in her mind, Father may indeed kill me. But Riftan was also forced into this marriage by father, back to present. Maximilian thinks in her mind, he left so abruptly that day. Will my plea be enough to move him? No. No one would ever want a dreary woman like me, and after all, we only spent one night together. I can't dash. Maximilian was crying and Riftan suddenly came to her room. After looking at Maximilian, he said, This is a sight to behold. The trembling wife awaiting her husband's return from the trenches. While stuttering, Maximilian asked, So, why you came be back safely, so. She remembers her father in her mind saying, Who would ever want a stuttering wife? She thinks in her mind, I can't. She freezes and couldn't say anything. Riftan grabs her arm and said, I returned safely. So what? He said while looking into her eyes up close, You could at least pretend to be glad to see me. He then leaves Maximilian's arms and said, Damn it. I feel like I've returned as a monster. Maximilian thinks in her mind, No! I'm done for if he leaves like this. She quickly grabs Riftan's robe and said while trembling, No. I was nervous and didn't know what to say. Riftan takes a sigh and she flinches. She thinks in her mind, I can't. Nobody wants someone as useless as me. Riftan stops and asked, Why are you peeping like a rat? The knight said, How could I have known you'd be engaged like this in the reception hall, sir? I didn't think you'd be so brazen in public. Riftan shouted, Get out! Now! The knight said, The carriage is ready. You said you didn't want to waste time here. While Maximilian is feeling embarrassed, Riftan said, Tell them to wait. Maximilian thinks in her mind, Does that mean he still considers me his wife? Is this a marital duty as well? While Riftan takes a sigh and scratches his head, she thinks in her mind, how? Riftan said, Damn it. I didn't have the slightest intention of kissing you like that here. He said, You heard him, right? We're leaving right now. Maximilian thinks in her mind, He's leaving? And no. She said while stuttering, wait. We haven't even talked properly. She thinks father may beat me to death if I let him go like this. Riftan asked, Have your maid pack your things. She can give it to the group departing after us. While standing up, Maximilian asked, My things? Why? Riftan asked, Are you saying I should go alone? Maximilian said, No. That's not what I meant. She thinks in her mind, Does he mean he's taking me with him? Will father allow it? Riftan grabs her by her arm and starts walking. While Maximilian is confused and asked, Where are we going? Maximilian said, My land? Where you should have been all along. While riding the carriage, Maximilian tells in her mind, His answer to my insistence on seeking father's permission was simply, "You are my wife. By law, married women belong to their husbands. Does that apply to this case as well?" She thinks in her mind, leaving like this. She glances at Riftan and thinks without a word to father, what if he gets mad? And why is he taking me with him? She remembers in her mind her father saying, King Reuben offered him the princess' hand in marriage. There is no way he would let that chance slip by. Maximilian tells in her mind while imagining Princess Agnes. She tells, a great beauty with brilliant golden hair and deep blue eyes. Agnes, a renowned sorceress, defeated the red dragon alongside Riftan. While looking at Riftan, she thinks in her mind, a wedding with a princess like that. If the church grants the divorce, no fool in the world would ever refuse such a golden opportunity. Besides, I only spent a single night with him. She thinks in her mind while looking worries, he'd have to be a fool, right? He never wanted this marriage in the first place. She tells in her mind, it's amazing he even remembers me. He's only tied to me out of responsibility. The princess suits him much better than a skinny fool like me. She looks at the lipstick at the side of Riftan's lips and remembers the Riftan kissing her. She thinks in her mind, why did that cross my mind all of a sudden? While blushing, she turns her head the other way and thinks in her mind, now that I think about it, didn't he start it? Shouldn't he be ashamed? What a strange man. She looks at the outside of the carriage and gets amazed. While looking at the castle from where they were leaving, she thinks in her mind, it's my first time out of the castle. So this is what it looks like, beautiful. Riftan looks at her while she gets amazed. Riftan clears his throat ahem. While looking down, she thinks in her mind, oh no. I must have annoyed him. Is he mad? Riftan asked, is being with me such a horrible thing? Maximilian said. And no. That's and not. Riftan asked, then what? Is it that you hate coming with me? Or that you want to go back? She thinks in her mind. Go back? No! If I go back. She said, and no. She thinks in her mind, father might actually kill me. I have to say something quick. She said, it's and not that. I've never been in a sea carriage for so long now like this. She was trembling while talking. Riftan looks at her. While taking a sigh, he said, I don't know much about you, and you probably don't know much about me either. But we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And yet, my mere presence makes you tremble. She asked while confused. The rest of our lives? Riftan said. Aren't married couples supposed to live together for the rest of their lives? He said, even a peasant like me knows the importance of marriage vows. Although it seems they hold no weight for you. She said thoughtfully. Hold no weight for me? I don't think that's. Riftan asked. If not that, then what is it? He said, for 3 years you've lived in the Creusot castle instead of my land. He grabs Maximilian's hand while saying. While trembling, she said, I didn't know where your land was. Riftan said, don't play coy. My men went to your castle several times to escort you. He said, a duke's daughter may not care for a pithy piece of land, but it's a place I hold dear. And you even ignored my men. She said, I didn't know. And no one ever told them me. He said, what were you going to do if you were pregnant? That child would have been the heir to Anatole. But still you. While he was talking, they heard the sound of things falling. Both of them are surprised and confused after hearing that. Maximilian tilts and were going to fall, but Riftan grabs her. A knight in the horse said, Sir! Ogres! Riftan said, Damn it! Put a shield on the carriage first. While getting down the carriage, Riftan said, whatever happens, do not come out. While trembling, Maximilian thinks in her mind, what do I do? I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Agres and knights were fighting. One of the knights said, Annoying bastards! Where did they pick up the scent? Stop them now! Sir? They're over here as well! Riften cuts down an ogre with his sword. Maximilian thinks in her mind, I did hear rumors about monstrous creatures appearing lately. But we haven't gone far from the castle. She looks at an ogre from the carriage window. She gets scared after looking at ogre and thinks, AM monster? She retreats and fell down the carriage. After that she thinks in her mind, he told me to stay in the sea carriage. While fighting an ogre, a knight said, My lady, please get inside. We have a shield on the carriage. She said, I didn't mean to come out. The sea carriage was shaking. The knight said, You will be in the way if you're out here. While crawling she thinks in her mind, I'm so scared. I must hurry. I need to get to the carriage. While knights were fighting and shouting, Where did that sorcerer go? The bastard! Sir! Watch out! Stop him! I'm on my way. While crawling away, Maximilian saw an ogre who was going to stomp his feet on her. While scared, she closes her eyes and thinks in her mind, I'm going to die. She heard a swoosh sound of a sword cutting. She opens her eyes while Riften was cutting ogre's head. She fainted after seeing that. Maxie. While closing her eyes, she heard Maxie. My lady. She wondered, has my punishment come? She remembers her childhood. Her father was saying, You useless wench. Not only a girl, but one who can't speak. It would have been better if you had followed your mother and died of that illness. She tells, I once longed for father's love. The family's shame. The Croissant's stumbling block. A weak, foolish girl, no better than a rodent. While remembering all those remarks, she thinks, Stop. Please stop. It's so cold. I wish someone would hold me. Please call my name, anyone. She tells, I believe that if I tried and obeyed father, one day he would come to love me just as he loves the beautiful and bright Rosetta. While hugging her dog, she said, Why, you aren't going to leave me, are you? She tells in her mind, But I'm just a useless thing who deserves to be punished. It's only right that I be abandoned, like an unwanted house. An outcast. She heard, Maxie! She opens her eyes. Riften asked, Are you awake? While she raises her head, she asked, where am I? He replied, We're at an inn near Zeno. While he brushes her hair, he said, After you fainted, we got out of the woods and came here. Our schedule is delayed thanks to that. While sitting at the bed, he said, And you appeared to faint at the sight of me, not the ogre. Maximilian remembers herself before fainting, My lady. Maxie. Are you okay? She said, I'm as sorry. Riften gives her a bowl and said, Drink this. You've been sweating. You need some water. While holding the water bowl, she thinks in her mind, Is he not mad? If father were here, there'd be a cane flying at me by now. Instead, he looks worried. While staring at her, Riften said, I didn't poison it, if that's what you're thinking. Drink up. She said, Okay, I'll drink it. Riften said, Tell me if you're hurt. I'll get the hierarch. While blushing, she thinks in her mind, I heard hierarchs are expensive. Is he really worried about me? While looking around the room, she thinks in her mind, So this is what a commoner's inn looks like. Do people really sleep here? Do they ever clean this place? While sniffing the blanket, she thinks, The blanket smells clean. That's a relief. While putting the food on side table, Riften said, You have clothes on. Get up. She said, Bibi, but these aren't mi. He said, Of course not. That's my tunic. That suffocating scrap of fabric you had on got soiled with vomit. I had the maids wash it. They'll bring it to you tomorrow. He said, There's no point hiding. I already saw everything when I was cleaning you up. Who do you think changed you? While surprised, she asked, Cece cleaned me up? What? Riften said, They got ripped. I threw them out. She asked, But why would you? While blushing, he puts his hand on his face and said, No choice. You couldn't breathe, you were turning blue. That thing around your chest, I was only trying to loosen it. All I did was pull. How was I supposed to know the top and bottom were connected? He said, You can borrow mine if you need it. While blushing, she said, And no thank you. She thinks in her mind, wearing only a tunic feels strange, but that would be even stranger. While looking away, he said, Damn it. All I did was change your clothes. We spent a night together, albeit 3 years ago. You shouldn't have fainted if you didn't want me touching you. She said, It's not that. He said, The problem with noble women is that they faint at the drop of a hat. After hearing that, she thinks in her mind, I've finally made him angry, fainting and causing a delay. Of course he'd hate me. Maybe he'll abandon me here. Riftan asked. What's wrong? He said, It's barley bread and soup. Eat it while it's warm. It's late now, so I'll buy you some new clothes tomorrow. I'll get you more of those strange undergarments as well. While she starts eating, she thinks in her mind, I can't read him. 1 minute he's kind and angry, the next. Then back to being nice again. Is being nice to me also a marital duty? After she stops eating, Riftan said, You didn't even have half of it. She said, I've had my fill. He said, I can tell already it's going to be a headache satisfying the noble lady's palate. She thinks in her mind, I bet he secretly regrets bringing me with him. Nobody ever wants me, after all. No one. She asked him, Why are you taking me with you? He replied, What do you mean? She said, I know you didn't want to marry me. So I don't know why you're taking me with you. If you want a divorce, I'd rather you tell me now. While squeezing the blanket, she thinks in her mind, If you're going to abandon me, do it while I can still go back. Riftan asked, Did you just say divorce? He grabs her by her shoulders and shouted, Were you with another man while I was off fighting for my life? She said, And no. He asked, Then why would you ever bring up divorce? She said, Everyone else said that when you came back, you would divorce me and marry the royal princess, so. She then thinks in her mind, I'm hopeless. I've only made him angrier. Now I'm. Tears starts falling down from her face. Riftan looks at her and stops. He then picks her up and said, Ha! God damn it! While wiggling her legs, she asked, What are you doing? Wait. Riftan sits on bed while holding her in his arms. He then kisses her on her eyebrow. He said, You are just. I don't know what silly rumors you've heard, but I turned down that proposal a long time ago. He said, I thought the king had finally lost his mind when he made such an offer to a married man. It's a sacred vow we swore before God. If I ever find a bastard who dares to break such holy vows, I'll castrate him with my own hands. While fidgeting, Maximilian said, But it's the royal princess. She's very beautiful, and unlike me, she's the noblest lady in Whedon. Riftan asked, Have you met Agnes? After hearing him calls her by her first name, she thinks, Agnes, if they're close enough for him to address her so. Riftan said to her, She's like a wild stallion. Relentless. I can't stand women like that. Palace life never suited me, but I hate appeasing stuck-up princesses even more. She said, But? He asked while looking her in her eyes, Are the rumors just an excuse for a divorce? She shook her head. He puts her forehead on her forehead and said, Then stop worrying. No matter what they say, we are husband and wife. Don't you ever mention this nonsense again. I won't tolerate it. Riftan picks and throws the blanket away. She said, Hey. Wait. Wait. I only have a tunic on. While blushing and embarrassed, she said, Hey. Riftan said, Riftan? She said, What? He said, Riftan. Not hey. You do know your husband's name, don't you? While Maximilian thinks, Why did he suddenly stop? Riftan asked, You don't want this? he said. We're married, but I won't force you to do anything against your will. She thinks in her mind, what should I do? Would he leave me if I turned him down right now? While looking at him, she thinks, he threw away the chance to marry the princess for me. I have to honor my duty as a wife, too, she said. No. While dazed, she thinks in her mind, is my memory of that first night all wrong? While blushing, she thinks in her mind, in fact, I liked it. She then looks at Riften sleeping and brushes his hair and thinks in her mind, he looked so distressed yesterday, but he looks like an innocent child in his sleep. She remembers him saying, do you know how hard it was to leave you 3 years ago? This was all I could think about while I was stuck in that hellhole. Me touching you, you disheveled in my arms. She thinks, is that true? Was it really hard for him to leave me that night? He likes me. How strange. This should be nothing but a forced marriage to him. He opens his eyes. She quickly turns to the other side and said, Riften, it's Emma morning. While they were busy, someone bangs the door. The knight asked, how long are you going to be in there, sir? Maximilian said, Riften, someone's at the door. Riften said, damn it. Riften said, damn it, I shouldn't have brought those bastards with me. Wait here. I'll get you some CLO, huh? He looks towards Maximilian. She covers herself with blanket and trembles. He asked, what's wrong? Are you in pain? She said, no, it's not that. While scratching his head, he said, perhaps you haven't noticed, but I am not a patient man. I won't know unless you tell me. She sighed, why your men outside knew what we were doing. While freaking out in her mind, she thinks, oh God! To think they heard everything. Riften starts laughing after hearing that. Whilst confused, she said, Riften. Riften kisses Maximilian on forehead and said, my sweet, innocent lady, don't be embarrassed. We're a married couple, and that's what married couples do. She said, a C couple. He said, that's right. It's only natural. The knight outside the door asked, sir, when are you coming out? Riften shouted, I'm coming, I'm coming. After he left, Maximilian remembers Riften in her mind. He was saying, my sweet, innocent lady, don't be embarrassed. We're a married couple, and that's what married couples do. C couple. That's right. It's only natural. She thinks in her mind, so he was just fulfilling our marital duties? What am I thinking? I should be grateful he's taking me with him, and it's my fault they're late. I should hurry before I cause any further delay. While she was thinking, someone knocks the door. A maid came and asked, can I come in? I brought you the dress your husband prepared. She said, oh, why yes. Please see, come in. She gets ready in the dress. While looking at herself in the mirror, she thinks, it's pretty. It's more extravagant than anything Rosetta wore. Huh? She thinks, I can't reach. Was getting dressed alone always this difficult? She remembers the maid saying, your husband prepared this undergarment for you as well. She said, I can de-dress myself. She thinks in her mind, should I just ask for assistance? I'd rather not if I can help it. Riften burst opens the door and said, Maxie, are you? He stops in the middle of sentence. Maximilian said, I am as sorry for tea taking so long. Be but this dress. In Riften's point of view, she looks dazzling. He quickly turns his head to the other side while blushing and said, don't be sorry. I didn't consider how long getting ready alone would take. He walks close to her and said, let me help you. She said, thank you. He said, there wasn't much time to choose, so it may not be to your liking. But don't worry. I'll get you a much nicer one once we're home. She thinks in her mind, how could I not like this? Just how extravagant is his taste? Compared to this, the dresses I had back at the castle were. She remembers her past. She heard, ugh, you've grown taller again? It's a good thing we have some fabric left over from Lady Rosetta's dress. Bear with the discomfort. Endurance is an important virtue of a lady. She thinks in her mind. I'm not the noble Lady Riften thinks me to be. If he ever finds out, he'll be disappointed. Riften said, I'll make sure you have nothing but the best. Nothing less than what you enjoyed at the Croesus castle. She said, this dress isn't so bad. He said, now let's go. She talks in her mind. I don't want him to find out. They walks to where other knights were stationed. One of them said, thought we were going to be spending the day here. At least you seem well rested. Riften said, shut your mouth. The knight said, but it's ridiculous. All this just for the daughter of the Duke of Croy. Riften interrupts him and said, I said shut it. After that they gets on the carriage. While sitting in the carriage, Riften said to Maximilian, don't mind them. It's your father they don't like, not you. But you're Lady Calypso now. You're my wife. I'll make sure they never disrespect you again. She thinks in her mind, of course they hate me. I'm the Duke of Croesus' daughter, after all. He looks at her being sad and gets angry and said, damn it. Damn those bastards. I'm going to snap their legs in two. She looks at him getting angry on her behalf and thinks in her mind, he's so strange. He seems angrier than I am. While smiling she thinks in her mind, but I'm not afraid at all. I wonder what this tingling sensation is. Riften looks at her smiling and said, you know, this is the first time you've smiled at me. She asked. W what? He clears his throat and said ahem, what are you waiting for? Get a move on. After that she talks in her mind at first, I had merely hoped he wouldn't divorce me, but now I never want to leave his side. I'm getting greedy. After some time they stopped at some place. Riften asked the knights, what's going on over here? One of the knights said, look, sir. This man here dares attempt to swindle us. Riften said, keep it down. We're still on the Duke's lands. Just pay him what he wants and don't make a fuss. The knight said, ha! We should just. He stops in the middle after looking at Maximilian. He said while turning his head, you're right. We shouldn't give the Duke anything to use against us. Just don't blame me if you run out of money. While getting gloomy, Maximilian thinks in her mind, it's my fault. The villagers would have been more cooperative if I were Rosetta. Riften asked, and the lodging? The knight said, apparently the cottages are all occupied by farmers here for the harvest. I was barely able to secure one. Riften said, if you can find another cottage for my wife? While Riften was talking, Maximilian thinks in her mind, I don't want them despising me any more than they already do. Riften was eyeing, I will pay you handsomely. Maximilian pulls his robe so he stopped talking. Huh! She said, I don't want to be alone. After hearing that, one of the knights said, Ack, I'm so hungry. Let's get some rest. You there? Where can we find some water? We should look after the horses first. Riften clears his throat and said, I'll let you go. She thinks in her mind, I'm glad he listened to my request. While looking at a worn-out place she thinks in her mind, I didn't expect this, though. Riften said, over here? She looks around the place and thinks in her mind, there aren't any rats here, are there? Riften said, it may be dirty here, but there aren't any rats. She said, and no. She thinks in her mind, what if he thinks I'm being fussy and a nuisance? While giving her bowl of hot potatoes he said, have some potatoes. Careful, they're still hot. She said, oh okay. She picks one and starts eating, it's good. Riften gives her another one and said, have another one. She said, no, I'm fine. You should have it, Riften. He said, just take it. She said, thank you. She tells in her mind, no one's ever bothered to offer me more food. It tastes better than anything I've ever had at the Croesus castle. While laying she said, Riften, there are other people here. He said, nobody minds, so stay still. It's cold. she said. I'm fine, so you don't have to stay so close. She thinks in her mind. You're the only one who doesn't mind. A knight said. Geez, can't you see she's embarrassed? You should really be more considerate. Riften said while sitting. Beat it, Ruth. Mind your own business. Ruth said. Relax, I'm not here to bother you. Riften said. Just say what you have to say and scram. Ruth said. Not even stray dogs growl like that. While showing him the magic stone, Ruth said, Here, take this fire stone. I cast a spell on it to keep it warm, so hold on to it. Maximilian asked. Are you giving it to me? Ruth asked, Who else? Those men over there could sleep soundly under a pile of snow in just their undergarments. While giving her the stone, he said, But you don't quite seem cut out for that. I'd be the one to suffer should you catch a cold, so think of this as a preventative measure. Maximilian said, Thank you, Sir Ruth. While scratching his head, he said, I'm not a knight. I'm a sorcerer. You can just call me Ruth. While looking annoyed, Riften said, Go to sleep now. We have to leave at dawn tomorrow. Ruth replied, Yeah, I'm leaving. After Ruth left, they continued sleeping. While holding the fire stone, Maximilian tells in her mind, It's warm. So this is what they call magic. Just moments ago, I thought I'd never fall asleep. This must be what sharing warmth feels like. It's seeping into my heart and lulling me into a deep sleep. While sitting in the carriage, she looks outside and talks in her mind, How many days has it been? After the first night, I became used to sleeping outside. While looking at Riften, she thinks, But the problem is he really avoiding me? She remembers in her mind Riften saying, We have too much luggage, so I'll ride horseback as well. The carriage is too small, so it's better for you to sleep alone. At night, the night watch, the ground is wet, so you go sleep in the carriage. While leaning on the side, she thinks, Does he find me bothersome now? Riften glances at her while she takes a sigh. He said while stopping his horse, Whoa there. Stop. We're taking a break. Let's stop here a bit. The other knights talks to each other. Guess that means we're camping out again tonight. It'll take days to get out of the forest at this rate. Maximilian thinks in her mind, Is it my fault we're slowing down again? Ow, being seated for so long has made my legs cramp. She wobbles and Riften grabs her. Riften picks her up while others are watching. She said, Riften. Riften, you don't have to do this. He said, Is that a habit of yours? She said, Pardon? While messaging her foot, he said, Always saying you're fine. She said, I really am fine now. I'm sorry for bothering you. After hearing that, he looks at her and asked, You think you're bothering me? She said, Why, you've been sleeping alone, so I thought I'd irritated you. She said, You're really? Ha! Riften quickly gets up. He then grabs her arm and starts walking. While following him, she said, Wait, where dash? Riften! Riften! While taking a sigh, he said, You'll be the death of me, goddammit. He hugs her close and said, I can't help myself whenever I'm around you. Do you know how agonizing that is? He said, I wasn't sleeping alone because you irritated me. In fact, it was for my own sake. While going away, he said, Just bear with the pain a little longer. We'll reach a watchtower soon, and you can rest there for a while. After that, retuned, one of the knights said, What, done so soon, sir? Riften shouted, Move it! Stop lazing about. After that, she talks in her mind, So he wasn't annoyed with me, what a relief. After they reached a watchtower, Riften said, The weather isn't looking too good, so we'll have to take a shortcut to reach Anatole before sundown. We can't take the carriage, so you'll have to ride with me. Will that be all right? She said, Why, yes. While she was sitting with her on horse, he said, It's going to be a bumpy ride. Lean on me if you want to rest. Move out. She thinks in her mind, I had no idea horse riding would be so scary. I should be careful not to fall off. She said while looking at the sky, I can't believe it's the rainy season already. Just thinking about it is depressing. He said, stop worrying. We'll be there before the rain starts. Have you forgotten already? We have to depart again for the capital in just a few days. She thinks in her mind, why do they need to go to the capital again? One of the knights grumbles, we're already running behind because of that detour. No need to keep King Reuben waiting any longer. Maximilian thinks in her mind, bringing me along really did slow them down. Riftan said, not much we can do about it once the monsoon starts. The knight said, but sir. The other knight said, are you telling me the hero who defeated the great dragon will refuse the king's invitation because of a little rain? Riftan said, watch it. We'll only be a few days late. The other knight said, we've wasted enough time. If we keep the king waiting dash. Riftan said, Ursuline Ricardo, watch your mouth. Maximilian thinks in her mind, it's all my fault. One of the knights said, sir. 5 werewolves ahead. She gets surprised and thinks, werewolves? Riftan said, don't let them get any closer. One of the knights said while fighting, don't worry. I've been dying for some action. Riftan said to Maximilian, it'll be over soon, Maxie. Keep your eyes closed. A knight said to Riftan, sir! Above you! Riftan said after killing one, Gable, there were 6, not 5. Maximilian looks at the corpse and thinks in her mind, he slashed it in half with one blow. One of the archers said, black werewolves can use concealment spells, you know. Let's hurry. There could be more. Riftan said to Maximilian, hold on tight. We're moving into a gallop. Let's go. Hurry. All the knights start galloping their horses. After they reached Anatole, Riftan slows his horse and said, Maxie. They looked at Anatole from a cliff. It was a castle and few villages. Riftan said, that is my land? Anatole. He said, our people are mostly mercenaries or miners. The land isn't arable, as you can see, so our farmers mostly raise livestock. Maximilian said, I see. He said, it may not seem like much, but the castle is quite nice. Although not quite as luxurious as the Croissant's castle. She said, and not at all. I was just thinking it's like a big F fortress. He said, the castle walls need to be high because of all the monsters in the area. She gets surprised and asked, are there many monsters? Riftan said, nothing for you to worry about. With those walls, most of them can't even get close. You can't imagine how hard I worked all those years. She said, I wasn't worrying. Ruth said, there really is no need to worry. He practically poured gold over those walls. Though I can't make any guarantees. The domain's been left empty for years. Riftan said, if you don't shut up, your magic tower will be the first thing I demolish. One of the other knights said, can we quit with the chit-chat and hurry, sir? I'm starving. While smiling, Riftan said, all right. Let's move. When they entered their territory, guards, soldiers, and people welcomed them, saying, our lord and his Remdragon knights have returned. Open the gates. Rosum Wygru. Rosum Wygru. Rosum Wygru de Calypse. The incarnation of Wygru. Riftan Calypso, the great dragon slayer. People were shouting and celebrating at their arrival. Trumpets were playing. O savior of the continent, let us exalt your name. O protector of Anatole, may your legacy live on forever. All hail the liege lord. Long live Anatole. Rosum Wygru. Rosum Wygru. All hail the Remdragon knights. Maximilian looks at them and thinks in her mind, they're cheering with all their hearts. The peasants who used to visit our castle would bow their heads in fear of my father. While looking at people celebrating, she thinks, I can feel their warmth. Everyone looks so happy. So different from how things were at the Croissant's castle. Gee goodness! Is that all right? One of the knights said. Sir, the people have prepared a celebration for us. They've been preparing since they got wind of the victory, apparently. We can't let them down. Riftan said. I need to get to the castle. Enjoy yourselves. Yes, sir, Riftan said. Hold tight. They reached the castle. The castle gates opened and they went inside. While looking inside, Maximilian thinks in her mind, it's even more magnificent up close. It's completely different from the Croesus castle's lavish Roman architecture. Riftan stops the horse steady now. The butler said, Welcome back, my lord. Butler and the maids bowed their heads. The butler said, We're happy to see your safe return. We prepared your rooms as soon as we heard you were coming. Riftan said, Good. The others aren't likely to return today due to the celebration in the village. Butler said, If I may ask, my lord? This lady is? Riftan said, My wife. I went to fetch her as soon as I returned. She said, And nice to meet you. I'm Maximilian. Calypse. Riftan said, Save the introductions for later. Let's head in first. All of them went inside. While looking around inside, she thinks in her mind, Don't they have someone to maintain the castle? It looks so bare. While angrily Riftan asked, What happened here? While looking furious, he said, Did I not order the castle to be refurbished by the time I returned? The butler said, Yes, which is why there is a new carpet in the parlor, along with new furniture, oil, and the large quantities of candles you requested. Riftan shouted, Not what I asked for. I specifically told you to make the castle as grand as possible. I sent you more than enough gold. While trembling, Butler said, Did you mean for the entire sum to be used for refurbishments, my lord? We are not accustomed to spending such large amounts of gold. Riftan said, I said I'd leave it in your hands. How could you let this happen? The butler said, We did our best to follow your requests. We even replaced the beds so that you could rest as soon as you returned. Maximilian thinks in her mind, while feeling dizzy, I'm scared. This atmosphere, it's hard to breathe. She recalls her past where she heard, You useless brat. Our family's disgrace. She thinks in her mind, I can't take this. While Riftan was saying, You dare make excuses for. She pulled his robe and said, Riftan. I want to arrest now. Riftan lifts her up in his arms and said, Don't be afraid. I'm not angry at you. She said, Riftan, put me do dash. Riftan said, I thought you wanted to rest. They went to a room. While he puts her down on bed, he said, I guess they did better in here. She thinks in her mind, Thank goodness. This is the Riftan I know. While she looks around the room, she thinks it's splendid. Everything in here is top quality. Compared to my room at the Croesus castle. Riftan said, Everything here must seem so shabby in your eyes. Damn those wretches. I clearly told them. She said, And no, this room is lovely. The C castle, too, and the B bed is wonderful. While putting his hand on his face, he said, Don't bother. I've seen the Croesus castle enough times to know better. Compared to your father's castle, this place is nothing more than a lousy barn. She said, And no, that's not dash. He said, Damn it. It's your job to manage the castle in the first place. It wouldn't be such a mess if you had come here sooner. It's a wife's duty to maintain the castle. While taking a sigh, he said, So, damn it. What I'm trying to say is. Riftan turns and walks close to her. She remembers her father with his cane and she thinks, He's going to strike me. She closes her eyes as to get hit, but then she opens her eyes while Riftan was crouching in front of her. He said, Since it is your duty, could you refurbish the castle? You can spend as much as you want. He said, Women love decorating and picking out furniture, don't they? I can get you more servants, and don't worry about money. While Riftan kisses her hand, she thinks in her mind, I did learn that this would be part of my duties as a wife. But I'm not sure if I can do it. Riftan asked. You don't want to? She gets a throbbing feeling and thinks. But what can I do? He thinks I'm a refined noblewoman. While he lifts her face, he said, I'll let the steward know, so just do whatever you want with the place. This is your home now. After hearing that, she thinks, oh, my home. A place for me to stay, my home. She then said, I'll do my best to make it cozy. While standing up, he said, wonderful. Both of them sniffs and smells. She said, I would like to take a bee bath. He said, I'll tell the maids to prepare you one right away. While sitting, she thinks in her mind, Riftan must have asked me to manage the castle because he thinks I'm a well-educated noblewoman. But I've never spent such a large amount of money in my life, and I don't even know how to order the servants around. He's going to be so disappointed if he finds out he battled 3 long years for a useless wife. He might even cast me away. While getting determined, she thinks, no, I will never go back to the Croesus castle. I have to prove myself.